Hello everybody, welcome back. Fumbler here. And yeah, in today's video we're going to have a look on how to disassemble or take apart, or as we say in locksport, gut a lock. And yeah, this comes especially complicated for double euros, and this will be coming later in the video. And I will start off first with the tools you should have or get to easily gut one of these, and then I will show you the easiest case how you can gut a lock. If you have a double euro, you can cut it and then access it from behind, which is the easiest way. And yeah, if you have the key, it becomes even easier. So I will show you how to gut a half euro with a key or without a key in the first two chapters. And then I will continue with the double euros. And here I can show you how you can easily gut a cylinder that you have picked. Then I can show you how you can gut it if you have two keys or if you just have one key. So yeah, let's get started. So in this first chapter we will talk about tools, and what I can really recommend is getting this blue box here, Locksmith Tools from HUK, lockpick hook, and it has quite a lot of useful tools inside. First, some pliers which are thinned down at the top, and this you can use sometimes to bend back C-clips, and yeah, it is very useful. Further, it has two core holders, one for small cores, one for large cores, and quite a few followers, one for small locks, small cores, one and two for normal cores, and both the thick one and the thin one, they have cut out so the pinning shoe can pass through it. And yeah, also this tool is very useful in gutting euros. This is a pinning shoe, and you will be seeing me using this later. Also, there are some pliers, but I would get tweezers, sorry. But I would recommend getting some tweezers which have a small cutout, perfectly designed to grab small pins at the tip. Also, you will be needing a tool for C-clip removal, and this tool is actually quite great. It's quite comfy, and you can also get the ones from Sparrows, which is also good and sometimes more useful for smaller locks. And what's also included here are segmented followers. 3 of them. Yeah, they're a bit painful to use, but sometimes that's the only way to gut a euro cylinder from the middle. You can also improvise them from, yeah, just pens cut in the right size or so, or some other tubing. Just cut it up as you like. But yeah, this tool already has them included. Also, what's very useful sometimes is a flathead screwdriver, a small one, just to help you with this, with the C-clips. Sometimes it's quite useful. And what you should also get is a front loader. Here's a 3D printed one, and I can link the design in the video description. And if you don't have access to a 3D printer, there's no excuse. Just grab a couple of these syringes in like 10 milliliters or so, and they really don't cost anything. And just buy a couple of them, and you can easily create your own front loader from this, following a tutorial I got from Talanpick. I'll link it up here now. And yeah, he really explains how you can turn a syringe to a front loader, and this helps you a lot in gutting a euro from the front. So I made a couple. Some turned out good, some turned out not so good, but now I'm using 3D printed ones since I have access to a 3D printer. And yeah, also for gutting, not directly for gutting, but you will need some pinning tray. either a very fancy one like this or just a piece of cardboard, or like my mobile pinning tray here, just a folded piece of paper. This can be enough if you want to. All up to you. But now let's start with the gutting. So let's begin with the easiest case. Either a cut euro or a half euro. Either way, you just have to have access from the bag. And the easiest case also is that you can either get it picked or that you have the key. And yeah, if you have the key and have it picked, I always recommend to lock it back up and just gut it with the key, because it is easier to remove the C-clip after picking. So I already loosened the C-clip quite a bit, so I have to be a bit careful. To get this off, you can just use these pliers, for example, or a specialized tool or screwdrivers. It does not really matter. And yeah, I loosened these up already beforehand. And this is the moment where you want to get a pinning tray in, so you don't lose any stuff. And then you want to get the shim ready, because yeah, always be safe than sorry. And of course you won't be able to push the shim in now from the back side, because the shear line is still blocked by the drivers. So you can enter it a bit, then you have to insert the key, and now be careful, the core is loose, you can easily just drop it out. So I recommend that you just rotate it a bit. Always keep a finger on the core that it doesn't slip out, and then try to push the shim towards the front of the lock, and if possible don't bend it up like I did here. Sometimes it also helps that you move it not directly on the pins but next to them, and then twist it onto the pins. Maybe you saw it, what I just did. Now the shim's in position, you can get a follower and just be aware where your key pins will be. So they are now here, and then you can just easily push out the core, and then you have everything in your hands. You can rest the core here, remove the key, or what is also quite convenient actually is if you take out the key pins with the key, then you can just lift them up as the key does and put them already on the pinning tray. This helps a bit sometimes, so you don't have to drop them all at once, but sometimes it's also just nice to drop them like this. Keys or pins always go from left to right, chamber 1 to chamber, yeah, the highest chamber, whatever your lock is pinned up to, and chamber 1 is always the most outer one. So in this case, this one. For the drivers, yeah, best is to just first remove the shim, then grab tweezers, pinning tweezers at best, and carefully with that, I will always put the finger here, so I have some friction on it, and then I carefully push with the tweezers and just take the chambers out one by one. If you want to get the springs out, best is to just turn the lock over and knock them if they want to come out before. And also here, always go from chamber 1 left to right on your pinning tray. And always be sure that you move the follower carefully. Best is just to push with the tweezers and then let the pin bounce towards the tweezers, so you also get the right orientation of the pin. And yeah, if the lock is nice, then the pins drop out easily, and the springs also. So yeah, basically this is how you got a half-sized euro or a cut euro. So off to the next chapter. So welcome to the next part. In this part we're still working with cut euros, half euros, or any lock that you can access from the back, and we will assume that you don't have the key and that you cannot pick it. So you cannot just push a follower back through here and got it. So what is your option? Well, you can back shim it. So usually lock manufacturers prevent front shimming in normal locks, not the very cheap ones, but the back is often wide open. And there you can insert a shim, a thin piece of metal. In best case it's already bent to match the core, and you can put it in through the back. And now I can only push it inside this far, because now we're stuck at the last driver pin. And yeah, how to show that best? Hopefully like this. Maybe zoom in on the back, or focus on the back rather. And now I cannot push it in further. So I need to push the last pin to shear line. And yeah, this is much easier because you only have to pick one pin at a time. So instead of having to pick the whole lock, which you maybe cannot do at that point, you only have to pick one pin. And in this case, I will use a half diamond, and I will use a technique called overlifting, which you could also do with a key blank. So with the half diamond, I go to the very back of the lock, and then I wiggle my way down through the keyway so that I'm sure that I've depressed all the pins. Then I pull back slowly, very slowly, while trying to feed the shim forward. And sometimes it works, sometimes not. Now it worked. We've progressed one pin and another. And while I'm pulling out the half diamond slowly, I'm trying to push in the shim. Here comes another. And here's another. And just one more to go. And there we go. We successfully shimmed that lock. Maybe let's zoom out a bit further and show you what we can do now. Because now we can just turn the core just like that. And well, now you can remove the C-clip, which is just a cheap plastic C-clip in this case, but might get me into troubles now. Let's hope not. Just be careful that you don't lock it back up. And now you're here, and you can back again, grab a follower, keep inside at this point here. We already have a shim in, and we can just slide out the core like this. So we can get now a lock without a key, without having to pick the whole lock. And yeah, this overlifting technique works on a lot of locks because very often the key pins are just standard. If they're not standard, you still can use this technique, but you will have to maybe pull back the shim a bit if you run into security features of the key pins, like serrations or torpedo pins or so. And all you have to do is just pull the shim back a bit and then just be gentle with the pick while lifting. You still just have to pick one pin. So that's a very good technique if you want to maybe progressively pin a lock, and now I can just remove some pins and have a better time than just poking around in a fully pinned lock. Yep, off to the next chapter. So now we are getting to the more complicated stuff, the double euros. If you have a double euro and you don't want to cut it, it gets a bit more complicated. Let's start off with the most likely or best case scenario that you can pick one side. So I have already picked this side and already removed the C-clip from here. If you have picked this, just to be sure that you don't lock it back up accidentally, yeah? It happens to all of us at some point. I had to reshoot quite a lot of videos due to that. What will we need to get this lock? We need pinning shoe, a pinning shoe either like this, or there are other types, maybe like this. But yeah, I really like the one that came with the hook set. I just modified it a bit so it fits more keyways. That goes in here. And now the drivers are kept in by the pinning shoe and will not go anywhere. And you can easily slide out the core and put it in a core holder. Just be sure where the key pins are, up here. And okay, let's park this somewhere here. Now you could go ahead and just be really careful with the pinning shoe, pull it out and get the driver pins out. But yeah, I hardly ever recommend this. There are better ways. You can use a front loader, like this 3D printed one, or like the one with the syringe I showed. And what you do now is you just put it in with the slit just over the pinning shoe, and then you rotate it a bit, and now the drivers are resting on the pinning shoe. And if you keep rotating, the chambers will align with the slot, which is angled here, one by one, and then you can take out the drivers. So here we see chamber 1 almost popping up. Let's put the pinning tweezers over it. And then, yeah, you can slowly take out the drivers. It takes yeah, you have to practice this a bit. Just do it a couple of times and you will be fine. In the beginning, pins will just go somewhere. One thing of advice here, come on, focus. The spring is below shear line, so I could easily just turn the front loader over it. Sometimes if the spring is sticking out, you have to be careful, because otherwise you will mangle it. If it would stick up, then you would, yeah, become in problems. So in best case, always drop out the springs as well. Just like that. And yeah. So I already removed chamber 2 now, and you can always, just what you do also with a follower, you can always pinch up the drivers with the front loader and they will stay in place, so you're sure the orientation is right when you take them out. It just takes some more getting used to this tool, but in the end it is not really complicated. But as you see, you will drop pins in the back. That just happens a lot with this tool. There goes another one. And yeah, this is how you got a lock from the front, if you can pick it and so on. And I will not take out the driver pins, but just show you one curiosity with this lock. The driver pin in 5 is too short to block the shear line. So pin 5 becomes, from a very short key pin, a 0 lift. Bad lock. Okay, that's all for cutting from the front. Reassembly you just do in reverse basically. Okay, off to the next chapter. Again, double euro, and this time we will assume that you cannot pick it, but you have 2 keys. Why 2 keys? You will see in a moment. There's a technique using these segmented followers where you slide them in from the middle and push out the core, and everything goes nice and smoothly. And that's a lie directly. I mean, this is painful. This is the least attractive way to gut a double euro, but sometimes it might be necessary. So your first task is to remove the attenuator here in the middle. And how to do that? Well, you have to pull out the core a bit until the back piece becomes flush. And you have to hope that none of the drivers shoot in any drill hole, so you can't be sure, but yeah, that is the price you pay. Now it spins already freely, but still it won't go out because you also have to pull this side out a bit. And this is why you need 2 keys. So we can pull this out a bit carefully until it is flush. And then the little piece drops out. If you haven't seen this, this looks like this. And yeah, this is inside. That decides which side of the lock is turning this thing here. Yes, so now we want to get out this side. So we look, first of all, I would recommend to tape up this side so it doesn't get lost or shoots out any further than you want it to. So just use a tape and attach to the key that is still sticking in there. So now the lock cannot just escape. You can use longer tape just to be sure, but I would recommend at least that. So now you can put the followers in. And yeah, you want to avoid these here dropped. This is just because this side is longer, it has an extension piece in here. This is not so relevant. But we want to get this side, the shorter side, and now you want to orientate it in a way that the drivers probably will not get stuck or shoot out in a direction. And there you have to be careful because there are these thin parts where the core doesn't go back completely, but there's these slots which go in here. And you want to avoid that these align with the drivers. So best is just to turn it a bit like this. And then use the segmented followers. And yeah, you can use, so to get started it's a bit difficult, but just pull out the core just a bit. Do not drop anything yet, just so you can get the segmented follower easier in. And now it's important that you don't pull on it, but push like this. Yeah. And then push it in just a tiny bit more than it is flush, so that you can insert the next one easy. Yeah, just like that. So now the core almost comes out already. Luckily we didn't drop anything yet. And yeah, as you can see, 2 of these segmented followers were enough for this 5-pin lock. 6-pin locks might be different, but for this case it was enough. And yeah, in order to gut this now, just carefully push the segmented followers back. You will try to put some pressure against what you're pushing now, but just like this. Carefully pushing the followers back. And you will get to a point where this is only held by one driver or so. And there you want to really be careful that you don't drop it. Let's see if it works out for me here. So I'm grabbing it with my index and my thumb now. And I really have some resistance with the tweezers. Okay, now the first segmented follower can go out. Just drop it and continue with the second one. Okay. And there you go. This is how you gut a lock with segmented followers. If you want to gut this side now, I would really recommend to take a normal follower. I have to remove the screws quickly, the springs, sorry, screws. If you want to gut the other side, just treat it as the normal lock. You can even put a shim down here now through the whole channel and just push it out and treat it as it was a cut euro or half euro. So this is finally the last chapter of the tutorial on how to gut locks and especially double euros. And yeah, in this case we will again assume you have a double euro that you don't want to cut and you cannot pick it, and you happen to only have one key. With only one key you cannot get this piece out, so you end up doing the remaining last thing, which is a good old speed gutting. Let's hope I don't break the lock doing this. There's a quite high risk of doing that, but yeah. So the only thing that you can do actually is just pull out the core and get everything out by that. So yeah, this is how you got a double euro if you only have one key. And there we go. Pretty fast, huh? If you orientate these right and you pull on the core instead of the key, you will still have the key pins in, which is quite nice. Saves you a bit of work. And yeah, with these, well, you will never know in which order they were. You can just assume And what you can also do is, now you can take the key and carefully gut this one as it was a half euro or a cut euro. And then you get the order of the drivers which were in here. So you can assume that the order on this side is the same as this side. And yeah, this is how you got it. Okay. So I hope you liked the video and maybe you learned something from the tips I gave. And if you're new to the locksport, I hope this will be a good starting point for you. And if you have some experience in locksport already, please leave your comments down below, and maybe you have more advice. I am quite clumsy, and these are just the methods that work best for me. Maybe you have other opinions or better techniques. Please let me know how you got locks in the comments. And yeah, one word of advice: always be careful, so you don't happen to make the mistakes I did here. For example, these drivers just can get stuck in any core easily, and then you will get into problems. This will happen to every one of us during our locksport career. Here it was just I wanted to gut from the middle and just pushed it out a bit, and one of the drivers shot in a drill hole. So yeah, if you can, always use a shim or a pinning shoe just to get the drivers out of the way. And yeah, always be careful. Best do your research before you got a lock. And yeah, just have a good time. Find your technique, find what works best for you. And yeah, enjoy the whole process. So if you liked this video, please subscribe. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.